You are listening to Mining Stock Education, where you'll learn from the top leaders in the natural resource sector and uncover quality mining investment opportunities.
If I was an investor, I think the bread and butter is 40,000 meters of drilling, but we're going to have a pretty substantial exploration program underway on that Confederation belt as well, and who knows what it'll find. Prosper Gold found some golden tills, and I think tripled or quadrupled on that. So we will hopefully be delivering a lot of information to shareholders very near term.
Thanks for tuning in to Mining Stock Education. I'm your host, Bill Powers. And in today's episode, we're going to be getting an update from Russell Starr. He's the president, CEO, and director of Trillium Gold. That's one of our sponsors. And to find more information, you can go to trilliumgold.com. And I'll also put a link in the show notes or above my head on YouTube if you want to listen to my introductory interview, which I did with Russell a couple months ago. So Russell, welcome back onto the program. I thought of you recently when I was going over the mining headlines as Evolution Mining, the biggest landholder there in Red Lake, where you are, bought out Battle North Gold for over 50% premium over the 20-day volume weighted average. So what does this mean for you as the second largest property holder there in the Red Lake district?
Look, it's funny, and I try to explain this to people. Like, this is the most stealth gold bull market I've ever seen. It's reflected in majors acquiring juniors. It's reflected in, property packages. It's reflected in, difficulty in finding space for core shacks. Red Lake is extremely busy and extremely big. The assay labs are backed up, well over a month behind. So while the share prices aren't doing that well, the reality is that the bull stealth market, if I can call it that, is well underway. And what you're seeing with Battle North being acquired by Evolution, and this can only be sort of my opinion. You never ever get a chance to really spend an hour with a CEO and where they tell you exactly what was running through their minds. But there were a couple of things. One is Battle North had a lot of tax losses, which from a tax perspective is always beneficial. But in my opinion, this is more of a reflection of the recognition that Evolution is going to have to start mining lower grade gold to maintain their production profile. And if you recall, Red Lake is notoriously famous for like 15 to 20 gram per ton material. And we see that all throughout our Newman Todd and Rivard property. But that doesn't last forever. And as you've seen globally, finding those high grade deposits becomes harder and harder and harder. And so I believe this was more a reflection of they need another mill, which they got. They got another 500,000 ounces, or sort of 800,000 ounces at about 5 or 6 grams per ton, which is really sort of right on the threshold of being economic from an underground perspective, but they got all the infrastructure as well. And so in my opinion, I think this is a recognition of, look, Red Lake has tons of gold mineralization. It truly is one of the most prolific mineralized from a gold perspective jurisdictions, I think, in the world now. You've seen that with the Dixie discovery, but it's an understanding that we're going to have to go a little bit down grade spectrum to maintain our production profile. But it really truly puts Trillium right in the crosshairs for a lot of Red Lake players, because our valuation is exceedingly low. I think what happened was some of the funds that participated in the $1.70 maybe were faster money perhaps, or they just wanted to switch out into another sector, which is what you've seen across the spectrum, right? It's people chasing crypto returns, cannabis returns, psychedelic returns. But a company like Trillium, with a dominant land package that it has, with the advanced exploration that it has at Newman Todd, and then sort of that wild card at Gold Center, becomes very, very appealing to the likes of maybe Battle North, maybe Pure Gold, maybe Evolution, or maybe someone who wants to come into that jurisdiction and create a little bit of angst. And so, what we're doing in the background, it's really difficult as a CEO because you almost view the share price as a reflection of your effort, and that's not really the case. We have 2 drill rigs turning at Rivard, one at Newman Todd, and then we're going to have a 3rd drill rig turning, and we've got $6.5 million in the bank, so we're well funded to actually execute on our 40,000 meter drill program. It's just right now it seems like no one wants to believe in what the gold market could be, despite the fact we're almost at 1750 gold and hopefully going much higher. So, I chewed on a lot of things there, but I'm very happy with our position. We have a ton of assays coming from the assay lab. And we have some, in my opinion, world-class exploration properties that we're just getting started on.
Newman Todd is your flagship, and you had some results come in. I want you to touch on that. But before we do, could you talk about Gold Center? Because this one here, if you hit here, remind us what's at stake here. And if you hit here, what it can mean in terms of market capitalization instantly.
Yeah, so Gold Center is immediately adjacent to the Red Lake mine. It's 350 meters by property boundary away from where Evolution is drilling, exploring, and mining. And if you go to our presentation, you'll see the slide that depicts it almost perfectly. The Red Lake, the world famous Red Lake mine, 15.6 million ounces at greater than almost 20 grams per ton, or 15.6 grams per ton. Is our neighbor, and that entire infrastructure trends onto our property. It's never been tested. We're getting zero value in our company for it. But if we hit, it's immediately valuable to Evolution. They're the logical only buyer, because it would just mean them extending their mine infrastructure 350 meters into the continuation of the mine they're already mining. So it's a really simple thesis. It's just that it needs to be tested, and it never has. So, we're in the midst of preparing our drill program. We've mobilized a drill rig. We're getting ready to start on it, and that would be our third drill rig turning. But in my opinion, if we hit there, the only analogy I've given in the past is Gold Eagle, which traded for $1.5 billion to Goldcorp. Clearly, we're not, despite the fact we're in a much higher priced gold environment, we're not in as big a gold market. So I'm not suggesting that it's going to trade for 1.5 billion, but it's clearly going to trade for more than zero, which is what we're getting in our share count or our share capital right now. So, it's I call it the lottery card swing. We'll spend our $2 million, and if we hit, it's game on. And if we don't, maybe we do one more swing. I don't know. I'm going to rely on our geologists to do that. And you got to remember that our geological team has, call it, close to 200 years of experience in the Red Lake area. So if anyone's going to do it and do it right, it's going to be us.
Are you going to be drilling from underground in Evolution's mine, or from surface? We're
going to drill from surface. If you think about it just from a chess piece perspective, if we would have had to give away a lot to access their infrastructure and drill from it, and who knows what that would have been. Right now, I think we're better off testing it. Maybe if we hit, we get into some sort of another situation. But the good news is we have two potential targets. One is the deep target, and one is a shallower target. And we're going to start with the shallower. And we've hired actually the individual who was doing the drilling for Rupert back in 2006. So, our hope is that the drill casings are stable enough that when we do decide to go deep, we can actually just drop a drill right down the historical casing. And then once we get to the Balmer Volcanic where they stopped, we could continue on, and that would save us a lot of money as well.
And your geological team, we should note, is friends or has connections with Evolution Mining. You noted in the first interview, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone knows everyone, and Bill Patterson, who runs our team, is I don't want to call him old, but he's long in the tooth in terms of being up in Red Lake. He lives there. Everyone knows everyone. There's family connections. Everyone knows everyone. So it's a small community, right? You have to remember Red Lake is a very small community. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Newman Todd, your flagship. So you got now all the assays back. There was a backlog, so maybe you could give us an update on what's going on with the assay labs, and then walk us through these recent results, please.
Well, look, the recent results actually really aren't recent. They're from 2020, right? They're 3-4
recent
months
to
old.
You.
Yeah. And like we didn't have the benefit of having our new model at that time, and we were targeting high grade, and we hit some high grade, which is good. Really, truly, the assay results that we're all sort of sitting on and really anxious about is a fan that we've done in between Newman Todd and Rivard. Now that we have a geological model that seems to be holding up, which we have on our presentation online, And we understand better that it looks like it's the Rivard veins when they encounter those east-west fault structures, one of which is right underneath that sort of mini bog / really shallow lake on our property. You're seeing a lot of high grade. And so we're testing the continuation of that in between Rivard and Newman Todd. And if we're successful with that, it means we're actually going to be able to target high grade, which in a nutshell, in our opinion, will give us the ability to not just have an open pit opportunity, but also an underground opportunity. Because when you can chase the high grade, you can drive your economics. So effectively what's happened is, we've gone from Newman Todd is great to, wow, Newman Todd is not only great, it's going to be some sort of an open pit scenario. Like, we firmly believe that you're looking at an open pit mine here to start. And now we're trying to derive the opportunity underground. So we drilled one hole right underneath the lake, which is where, if you remember sort of the Newman Todd mineralized halo, right underneath the lake, there was a gap where it didn't show any mineralization. We've got a relatively deep hole there that we believe we've seen some great textures in the drill hole that I think is going to basically join that sort of peanut looking shape together. And then, the big one is, can we chase those Rivard veins? And we believe we can. And I can tell you, we've seen lots of VG, and that's always a very good sign. And it's just a matter of seeing it turned around from the assay lab. And so to your question, literally what happened was everybody got financed in the summer, everybody turned a drill rig, and then everybody put their assay labs into the assay labs, and you're seeing it across the space. We found out a very quick solution to that, and we're now seeing those assay results. I have a call actually right up after this one to run through where we sit. But in my opinion, you should see all of those results that I was just referring to coming out within the next week or 2 weeks, which should give the market something to really chew on versus sort of this quiet period that we've had to suffer through.
And then after you get those results, you interpret them and then plan out. I believe you got 40,000 meters still to go this year. Is that right?
Yeah. So we've done about 6, so call it 34,000. But again, what's interesting with Red Lake is some of the drill holes they go quite easily, but when you're in the actual Newman Todd structure, it's a massive breccia upon breccia upon breccia. It can be a slower turnaround just because you're going through so many drill bits because the rock is so hard. But when we're drilling outside of Newman Todd, which is where this fan is, you're hopeful that you drill a little bit faster and you get your assays turned around a little bit quicker. So the key for us, and if I can just simplify it, is when you're looking at an open pit, you want to be able to effectively mine as much of your global resource as possible. And a global resource is just sort of that grade shell envelope. And the further you can pull the pit wall out, the easier it is to access all of the global. And so what we have the benefit of is Rivard, which is our neighbor, effectively showing us where to go, because all of those veins, you go to the slide on our website, all of those veins are VG carrying. And so you can see them trending on surface at Rivard. And you can see them mineralizing the Newman Todd structure. At least that's our belief of what's happening. And you got to remember back in 2013 when Newman Todd had that $200 million valuation, they just kept drilling high grade, but they didn't own Rivard. So they didn't have perhaps the appreciation or the understanding that we do with the Rivard veins and the direction that they're trending. And so it's a brand new thesis for the project, and if it works out, you get a situation where not only can you drop that basically expand the pit walls, but you get access to more and more and more and more mineralization. And so that's what we're trying to embark upon. And one of our goals is, once we get to sort of that, I think I mentioned this before, once we feel that we're somewhere around 1.5 or even higher, then we're going to hope to surprise the market with something pretty substantial. So it's all a process. Investors are not patient in the gold sector right now. It's almost being traded, get in, get out, get in, get out. But I do see a world where hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months, you've got gold back up above 2,000, and people are chasing the gold market, and we'll be near the top with our land package, with Newman Todd, with Gold Center.
About 2 months ago when we spoke, you mentioned you were pursuing a small production outfit to possibly fund further exploration. Any updates there you can give us? Yeah,
look, at a different share price, we'd probably consider that. But you have to look at it like everything is always moving in our industry. That's something that obviously would be every junior's goal. So, at the right price, we're always looking for that. It's just ours and a lot of the market's share prices fell out of bed over the last 2 months. People just literally pulverized the gold sector. So our job now is to get as much information out, get our share price much more robust. Like we're if you do it on a fully diluted basis, X our cash, we're at a $44 million market cap, and Newman Todd had a $200 million valuation in 2013. It's pretty crazy how unreflective our share price is to the value of what sits in Newman Todd, I guess is a good way of putting it. But we also have everything else. So our job is to create more value and then revisit those opportunities. So I'd never say no. It's just, you don't want to do a merger of equals where you're not merging as equals, right? Mm-hmm. And with that market cap and the value that is not being reflected in our stock, it just wouldn't be prudent as a CEO to do something like that dilutive at this share price.
And you've been putting your money where your mouth is. I see you've been buying in the open market also.
Yeah, no, I think over the last month I've probably bought 75 or 80,000 shares. Mm-hmm. I think every CEO should do that. I don't understand why they don't. If you're going to be the CEO of a company, you should believe in it. So I am putting my money where my mouth is. And I believe there's huge value in Trillium at these share prices, huge value.
One more question. Treasury, what are we down to? About 6 million? Is that right now?
6.5, I believe. And maybe at the end of this month, it'll be 6.2 or 6.3. One thing I should mention is we have a massive amount of drill results coming here. So you're going to see just tons of information hitting the market. And we will be starting up on our exploration program on the Confederation Belt as well. So, I've always said to people, one of the first things I did when I started was I looked at what Dixie has discovered on a belt that previously was viewed as a VMS belt. And I wanted to own as much of that belt as possible. And that's what we embarked upon. And quite frankly, I would look to do more, because all of a sudden you've got the Confederation VMS belt with the potential to host massive amounts of gold. And Dixie's proven that up. So if I was an investor, I think the bread and butter is 40,000 meters of drilling, but we're going to have a pretty substantial exploration program underway on that Confederation belt as well. And who knows what it'll find. Prosper Gold found some golden tills, and I think tripled or quadrupled on that. So we will hopefully be delivering a lot of information to shareholders very near term.
All right. The website again is Trillium Gold. I'll link to that in the show notes. And the ticker symbol in Toronto is TGM. And you can also purchase it on the OTC under TGLDF. Russell, really appreciate you giving us an update, and we'll be touching base with you soon.
You bet. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you. Have a great day.